Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday. That means tomorrow is free training day. It's abundant negotiation training. How to negotiate from a place of abundance of more than enough. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. First on the mic is my man, Mike. John, Leah, Jackie, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, depending on where you are around the world. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Let's get those questions rolling. Let's pin up there, david@dmeltzer.com. Hopefully you're joining me on some of the Clubhouse stuff. If you haven't seen Clubhouse, you should check it out. It's all audio, so you don't have to look at my ugly mug. That's what I like about it, and it's very organic. There we go, Team Dave Meltzer. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. 949-298-2905. That's how you join my text community. And, of course, david@dmeltzer.com. Looking at everything. Abundant negotiation. If you want the exercises, guides, my books for free, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. The playbook has all the celebrities, athletes, millionaires, billionaires, entrepreneurs, all there for you, but they also have all my trainings featured on Spotify. Just search David Meltzer or the playbook on Spotify. You'll see the playlist there featured. Entrepreneur featured there or on every other platform. So let's get it going there. Email me if you want an invite to any of the things I'm doing. Also, remember, 2-minute drill tomorrow, episode number 2. Check it out. Go ahead, email me. If you want to try out $50,000 of cash and prizes each episode. Season 2 will be in June. Looking forward to see everyone. Thank you so much. All right, the questions are rolling in here. Let's get this going. What do you think of your Clubhouse session last night? I loved it. I thought it was a good start. I had Matt Higgins from Shark Tank on there. Just an extraordinary entrepreneur. Extraordinary, teaches at Harvard Business School as well. Self-made man. Loved having him on there. And we'll do it again. Logistically, I can get better. Let's just put it that way as always. The hashtag The Playbook with Richard Thalheimer aired today. Thank you, Jakey. We got an episode every day of The Playbook. Like it, share it, send it to your friends. Go ahead, download the app Clubhouse if you haven't already. That's where you join it. Let's take on a few more questions. I have spoken to many career coaches and have narrowed down to 2. How do I choose which one to go with? I think the one that's most aligned with your values, number 1, and 2, the one that would guarantee profitability. So I'm more than happy to help as well. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I would make sure that everyone, as I do, guarantees profitability, and would love to have you check out what we do just to compare it to what they're doing to make yourself equal and make sure you're aligned with their values. How do I approach customers? Well, you first stimulate interest, then you transition interest, then you share a vision, then manage and develop that vision. Hello from Trinidad and Tobago. Do you know that the Playbook's the number 1 podcast in Trinidad and Tobago for careers and entrepreneurship? That's right. That's there in Trinidad and Tobago. So like it. david@dmeltzer.com. Honey, good to see you. He was on the Clubhouse last night talking to Matt Higgins. How do I deal with a micromanager? You should be grateful that person cares about you. I love when people complain about micromanagement because that just means that the person cares about you and is trying to teach you to make you better. So be grateful. And that's how I would deal with it and learn. What's your best teaching for happiness? Enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. Remember, there is no pursuit of happiness. Happiness is actually the pursuit. Just so simple and so easy to nail out there. What's the toughest question you've been asked lately? That one. There's so many questions I've been asked. It's so hard to remember. So I would say that one's the toughest one that I've been asked. I'm trying to start making profit as a $1,000 investment. Any ideas or advice? Buy low, sell high. Do your research. Find something that's oversold and buy it for $1,000. Have it pre-sold for $1,500, $2,000, whatever it is, and then repeat and rinse. Friday's training is on abundant negotiation, exercises, guides, books, trainings, all for free. Join me, david@dmeltzer.com. On the co-founder of Copy Accelerator and co-founder of Turtle Peak. the weekly training program. There he is. Stefan, how are you?
I'm good, David. How you doing?
Stefan Georgi, welcome to my live. Well, tell me about what's going on with your mastermind. You know, there have been self-development things popping up all over the place, and you have almost 100 people, I think, and your mastermind provides some great training about writing and what is most important today, content. So I'd love to hear kind of what you have going on.
Cool. Yeah. And by the way, great point on micromanaging. I've never thought of it that way, but I loved it. Um,
Thank you.
really cool reframe. Uh, yeah. So I have a mastermind called Copy Accelerator. I run it with a partner, Justin Goff, and it's about half business owners, half freelancers, but it's really about helping people to create copy and content that they can then scale on cold traffic, meaning, people who've never heard of you before, that they can come to your funnels, your site, and take whatever action you want them to take, whether that's, selling something or, joining an email list, whatever it may be. We really focus a lot on the copywriting side, but also a lot of the optimization stuff. And we have a full version and a light version. So we actually have like 250 members now with the light version, which is pretty cool. And we're helping a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I got to send my guy Blaine, my copywriter over there. I think he would benefit greatly from that. Now, you have been also on the cutting edge of understanding marketing trends. You've been a minority owner of a sports agency. You've created and done a lot of eclectic things like myself. What do you think the key to having that open mind and availability to look at things differently and not contain yourself into one single bucket?
Yeah, I think that, when you're starting out, I think having, specializing and gaining mastery in a certain area is valuable and important. But I think also being sort of multi-dimensional and looking at different things. Like I read books about history. I love reading articles and blogs of all kinds of different like niches and industries. I'm a philosophy major. So for me, I think a big part of it is just really being open-minded, because there's a cross-pollination that just happens. And I think you get the best ideas from, places you would never expect. So even whether it's reading like a Woman's World magazine and having a cool idea for a health kind of company or promotion, or just traveling and observing things, I just really try to be observant and empathetic too. I think that is important. I'm always trying to put myself in someone else's shoes and see what kind of problems they have. And then that makes me want to help to solve the problems.
Well, you also have a great ability to do three things. You know, I've read through a lot of your stuff and seen your career as you've evolved as well. But one is the initial stimulation of interest, right? Which is really difficult within all the context of the chaos and noise that's out there to be able to stimulate interest. But it's even a greater gift to transition that interest to share a vision and to compel someone to respond. I'll tell you, in the sales side of things, people ask me all the time, I'm cold calling, nobody picks up. And I said, well, it's kind of like my different paradox of micromanagement. I'm always looking to reverse things inside out. I said, well, if we all know 80% of the people never pick up, they don't respond to our emails, whatever it is, then why aren't we practicing getting a response instead of trying to get them to pick up?
Hmm.
Right. And so I find that if, you're taking 500 calls a day and 400 of them are never responded to, why not get better at getting the response as your only goal is getting someone to call you back, email you back, DM you back? I think the same thing holds true in what you do, is that, it's one thing to stimulate interest, but to take action, to have them some sort of shared vision or engagement or compelling event within the context of what that content is trying to explain is really essential. What for you have been some of the things you've learned in order to transition interest and share a vision?
Yeah, for me, I think a big part of it would be authenticity and things like that. Like for me, like with a lot of the content I'm sharing, whether this is for my personal kind of brand or for clients, but it's building an authentic connection and building rapport, right? Just like with sales, you would build rapport with somebody because if they know you and like you and trust you, then they're much more likely to take action and give you money or work with you or whatever it may be. And I think even with the written word and communication there, it's really about just being vulnerable and real. I think what people really relate to with my content is that I really try to, just when I mess up, like I messed up the other day on something and I've sent an email to my list, oh, hey, I screwed up. Like, what can we learn from it, right? And I think that kind of vulnerability like is needed more than ever, and people respond to it more than ever, but it's also in short supply. So many people are afraid of ever looking like they could possibly make a mistake. So one of the biggest parts for me is just owning mistakes and being super real with people. As funny as that sounds, but people want to, they follow people that they really trust and believe in. You know.
Yeah, I don't think that vulnerability creates invulnerability. I always use a baby on the sidewalk is if you can carry the energy or the emotional attachment of being as vulnerable as, a baby lying on a sidewalk, who's going to harm a baby? Who's going to attack a baby on a sidewalk? And I think people, want to be a ferocious lion, which creates fear and attack, where they should take a antithesis of that, which is be completely vulnerable, which would create true invulnerability. What are some of the other things that you guys, the hot topics of the mastermind that you've created?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones are like, a lot of it is always that same stuff for conversion. So it's like a lot of it's like storytelling, but right, because most kind of copy or selling, starts with a good story. Like I really talk about selling to the heart first and the brain second, right? Go after emotion and the kind of the irrational mind first, and then turn to the rational mind. I think when a lot of people try to sell, whether it's through the written word or again on phone sales, in person, from stage, whatever, they'll come with a bunch of facts. Like, did you know that 8 out of 10 people, and everyone's like, yeah, okay, right? Immediately my rational brain's going. And so I'm sort of on guard. But when you come in with a vulnerable, authentic story and share that first, people connect and their kind of guard goes down, they're more likely to listen to you. Beyond that, the other thing I think is really going to take off in 2021 is like live stream selling, live stream shopping. So basically selling through Facebook Live, Instagram Live. Amazon has a platform. It's already a $60 billion a year industry in China, and it's just starting to take off in the US. I think it's estimated to be 25 billion a year industry by 2023. So I think brands have a really awesome opportunity to leverage social channels and almost do strip down QVC. Think like QVC, but way more authentic, not, the high production value. So I'm actually doing this personally with some brands, and then I'm teaching in the mastermind because I think it's a huge, kind of the next place things are going. Social, it's entertaining, it's authentic, all those things. And I just think it's going to be a really large trend.
I think you nailed it. In fact, the title sponsor of my TV show, 2 Minute Drill, is Verb Technologies, VERB, which is the first integrated streaming shopping tool for influencers to utilize. So check out Verb, VERB. I think you'll find it extremely interesting, especially for your mastermind group. You touched on, people buy on emotion for logical reasons. And the reason that is through those stories that we tell. But I add a few little nuances to what you're trying to teach, as far as don't just tell a story to be entertaining and connect emotionally, teach a lesson. When you can teach a lesson, now not only do we have the emotional attachment, but we give the logical reasons in order to effectuate that emotional attachment. And the reason the stories work so well is it's actually a qualifier. What I found is that the qualification of a story indicates someone has an open mind. And statistically, it's much easier to engineer an open mind. In fact, it takes as much energy to engineer one closed mind as it does 1,000 open minds. By being a great storyteller like yourself and a great teacher of lessons like yourself, then you're able to effectuate and attract more open minds, which are much easier to share a vision with, as you know, and put you in the right place and attract the right people. What's the last piece of advice, here during the pandemic, with all the freelancers and the shifts in the paradigms that have created and your great success through your entire career? What's the one piece of advice that you have for people as far as evolving and pivoting?
I think honestly, it's going to sound a little bit generic at first, but the best piece of advice I ever got from my dad was that the cream tends to rise to the top. And at the time, I didn't fully appreciate that and understand it. And then as I've gotten older, I do, because essentially, if you put in the work and you put in the focus on your craft and being the best at whatever you're doing, and you focus on the process and perfecting the process, generally the outcomes that you want will come. They might not happen like overnight, but they get there. I think a lot of people, this is true no matter what, because even with COVID and everything that's going on, a lot of people in my mastermind and just friends in the industry are doing way better today than they were a year ago. Like significantly, their business has doubled or tripled. I mean, e-com was already massive, obviously, but has exploded even more. So there's just tremendous opportunities everywhere. So I wouldn't worry about like circumstances and events and things of that nature. I would focus on the process and being the best and putting the work. When you do that, the kind of accolades, the money, whatever else, all that stuff just tends to follow.
Yeah, you can't find outside of us what you can find inside, and looking at your own capabilities, skills, knowledge of what and who, and of course that desire to must be what you can be is what your dad was talking about when he talks about the cream always rises to the top, especially when accelerated change comes great opportunity, and those that do focus internally on what capabilities they have end up rising to the top and being the cream. And you certainly are the cream and always been at the top and will continue to be so. Thank you so much for all you do. I know people can find you at stefanpaulgeorgi.com. Where else can people find you?
Yeah, they can. I mean, follow me here on Instagram. I'm just at Stefan Georgi, and I'm on Facebook. I'm really all over. I'm messing with Clubhouse a little bit. I haven't been taking full advantage of it yet. I heard you talking about Clubhouse, but yeah, website's a great place. Get on my email list if you go to my website. It's not like a thing where I'm trying to sell you stuff all the time. Like I basically write between 500 and 2,000 words of just like content and value pretty much every single day. So good place for people to kind of connect with me more.
Well, we appreciate that. Anyone giving free content, you know, I'm all over that, and look forward to seeing you at some of our Friday trainings as well. Continue to provide value, my friend. Continue to make a difference, and come back and visit me soon, okay?
All right, will do. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks, Stefan. Perfect. All right, that's Stefan Georgi. I have, it might be looking for a new copywriter myself because I just can't get the phonetic spelling. I had the Celly yesterday instead of Chelly, and then here Georgie instead of Georgi. Let's go, team. Let's do this right. Either be more interested than interesting, or let's go to Stefan Georgi's course and figure out why we're making the mistakes that we make again and again and again. Welcome. Anyway, looking next, if Tal Brown is here, I'm just looking in there. Let me take a quick question. George, Gigi, good to see you. I see you in there, looking great. Here we go. Where is one of the first places you'd like to travel when we can? Bora Bora. You know what? I took for granted all the great traveling I do around the world, and I want to go to Bora Bora. I absolutely want to have a nice little place above the water, and then Manhattan would be the next place. I miss New York, and my office in New York, and my friends in New York, and the food in New York, and the entertainment in New York. I love New York. So anyway, we're bringing on Tal Brown, and there he is. Hey, Tal, how are you?
Good, guys. How's it going? Thanks, David.
Thank you, man. Well, I wanted to have you on. You've been with Zone 7 helping coaches and athletes, medical professions fill that gap between performance and injury, which I've been looking at for years. Because I'm a little more on the OCD side, it's taken me more years to understand I've harmed myself more than I've helped myself, and I could have used that energy in a better, more productive way. What got you involved between this gap of performance and injury?
So I'm not a sports guy. I have no formal background in sports. I spent my career, working in big data and AI, and I did this in a couple of markets. Initially, kind of like homeland security and cybersecurity. I was one of the first guys at Salesforce to put together predictive tools to help change sales rep behavior and make it more effective. And so I came into this with a lot of experience creating AI tools that help change behavior, but I'm looking at this as an outsider in the sports thing. I was just fascinated because if you look at this, any environment where humans are performing, and that's a critical part of the organizational success, all of these areas are susceptible to injury, to fatigue, to exhaustion, to burnout. And if we can calibrate the intensity of work, the rest, the treatment in a way that makes sense, then we can basically have our best performers perform more for longer periods of time. And the most extreme example of this is sports. We have the highest paying individuals on the planet who are 20 to 25% of the time sidelined by injuries. So sport is definitely the tip of the iceberg in terms of the tension between the value of the individual in terms of their contribution and the cost of having them down.
And, through AI, we get extraordinary data. And I'm always wary of, the analysis of that data that we, take for granted some of the human aspects that maybe AI can't pick up or can pick up, determined upon, for example, genetics, right? So everybody's built differently with different structures, muscles, joints, tendons, etc. What have you found to be some sustainable data that helps people either with recovery or maintenance and injury free and staying injury free?
So that's a really, really good question. There's a lot of data out there. There's data about how fast you run and how strong your quads are and how good your sleep was and your genetics and your blood work, et cetera. So it's almost endless. From a productive, effective perspective, you have to target the areas where the data is available at scale, and you have to find a threshold of value, right? So what we've seen is that by focusing on the performance data, and by performance I mean what are you producing as an athlete or an individual, and we measure that with an Apple Watch, or pro sports have their own little devices, but it's all about movement, speeds, accelerating. If you're a pitcher in baseball, it's how fast you can throw the ball and all that. So by focusing on that, and by focusing on combining that with some medical data about your personal history, are you recovering from an operation, are you 19 or 32, that allows us to provide very, very, very high quality recommendations on how to navigate somebody from risk to no risk. And then once you add a little bit more deeper medical data, so things like how strong are you, how much can you bench press, how flexible are your hamstrings, by adding that layer, then you're also bringing in stuff that's off the field, off the pitch, it's in the gym, and that makes it even more usable. We haven't gone into genetics yet. In that sense, but that's where the industry is headed, right? Like 5 years ago, nobody was tracking sleep, and today a lot of people are. So slowly, the industry is kind of like progressing towards more and more data. But I think that the tactical day-to-day data, which genetics isn't, is still very, very valuable, and we just begun tapping into the potential of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I see sleep as the only area that takes out of the realm the ego and the embodiment, which are two multivariables into multidimensional facets of how we stay healthy and get injured. But as you know, because of the hyper competitive nature and the amount of dollars that are in sports, that we don't have to be 100% right? If we can get a subtle increase, and like you said, imagine if just 1% less injuries occurred. When you're looking at the multi-billions of dollars, the ROI is tremendous. And if you can get somebody back on the field a week earlier, the data has true value. And so I think it's important to put, AI into context, that it's not the end all. It doesn't know everything, but it does have statistical success, and we can track that. We can regulate it. We can do all types of things. But it's interesting too, as you talk about sleep, that is something that has, in my opinion, a greater accuracy, because it takes so many variables out of the analysis. When we're looking at, sleep, we don't have to worry about the performance, the physical performance or aspect. We don't have to worry about the ego. We can literally work within the context of what our connectivity is and how that vibration and wavelengths are working, which can be tracked and analyzed. To you, what's the next best thing that we should be tracking and that you're looking at? I know you're more a science guy than a sports guy, but most science people end up in sports and in spirituality. In my opinion, the two greatest uses of technology in my life is technology or science towards spirituality and science towards sport.
Yeah, good point. Well, listen, I mean, you're right in a sense. It's not a all-knowing crystal ball. Nothing's 100%. If you look at stock trading algorithms as an AI example, and an example of AI being deployed in a different market, it's not going to get every single stock right all the time. But if you can beat, the market in a certain percentage of cases, then you're winning over time. And injury is the same. You can't identify every single injury ahead of time, but if you can reduce it by 20%, 30%, whatever the number is, we've seen some cases of 60 and even 70%, then it's an advantage that competitors can't afford not to have. And it's driven by, and another thing to remember is that injuries are on the rise. This is happening, right? The volume of injuries in baseball, football, basketball is rising. So it's not even about, and for some cases, it's not even about reducing, it's just about keeping it at the same level. So what we're seeing in terms of data, and this is a really good question, is there's 4 categories that we find to be right now very, very helpful. One is your typical personal history, right? How old are you? Are you recovering from this operation? Have you had a history of injuries? That's really important. The second category is what you're doing every single day, right? How much are you lifting? How much are you running, playing, whatever your sport is? There's easy or accessible ways to quantify your output as an athlete. And then the third category, as I would say, strength, right? And there's all these examples in the NBA about James Harden and Luka Doncic, and we can measure the amount of force they exert when they decelerate, when they stop on a dime and step back. That kind of data is now available at scale around force and power of different parts of your body. And the fourth category is exactly what you said, it's sleep. We, up to a couple of years ago, we did not have objective sleep data. We used to ask players, hey, how rate your sleep quality 1 to 5, or how many hours did you get? And it's helpful in a way, but it's that will always be, I would say, less accurate than having a product that digitally quantifies sleep. Even if that product has an error, occasionally a 10% error, it's still better. So those 4 categories are what we're doing right now. And what we're seeing is more and more clients and more teams and even more individuals in sports are expanding into all 4, right? Any cyclist or runner out there is going to have a watch, and they're going to know exactly the speed and volume of running they did. And we're slowly seeing where everybody's going to have all 4 categories.
That's amazing. And Zone 7's on the cutting edge of each of those categories. And like you said, at least maintaining the injuries at the level they are, if not decreasing the amount of injuries and recovery that it takes. I think that's an important component as well, is quicker recoveries are very important within the context of any type of injuries, whether they're chronic or not. Tal, people can find you at Tal Brown. Where else can they find you?
So I have to admit, I'm not a huge Instagram user. So best place to find me is on my LinkedIn page and Twitter, which is where I kind of stay a lot. And then, our website is zone7.ai, and it tells what the company does. And it also has a whole bunch of case studies. There are case studies where clients have agreed for us to tell their story. We used this for a while, and we were able to reduce injuries by so-and-so. And this is how our staff uses it. So from the athlete sports perspective, I think a case study is ultimately what we really care about. This tech is used by, science trained professionals to achieve the goals they're after. So yeah, website is great, zone7.ai.
All right. Thank you so much, Tal. We'll have you back soon. Thank you for all that you're doing. I can't wait to read those case studies. Take care, Tal. You got
Thanks
it.
a lot.
All right, Tal Brown, check it out. Zone 7, cutting edge stuff right there. And that goes for professional athletes or just your weekend warriors. You do not want to get injured. And if you do, you want to recover faster. It's that simple. Jordan is next. She is the co-founder and CMO of Sunwink and has been involved in some, very interesting herbal wellness businesses, including our friends at Impossible Burger. So I wanted to have her on. Big fan of where that herbal technology is going with making foods medicinal again instead of making them full of disease. We've been killing ourselves over food, and now it's time to heal ourselves with our food as it was produced and meant to be. So Jordan, if you're here, let me know. Let me take a question. Joseph Storzinger, good to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. You're always on there, and appreciate you. What are some failures, lessons you learned early on that you haven't shared that often? Well, I try to share as many lessons as I can. For me, asking is a big one. And so, asking and attracting what I wanted, thinking I was in control, also overselling, back end selling, line manipulating, and cheating, seeing things as gatekeepers instead of sponsors. So looking forward to that. I see that at Jordan Shank, she has rescheduled with us, so that's good. We'll take some questions. That's not a problem at all. Here, let's keep them going. Remember, Friday's training's on abundant negotiation. Get the exercises, guys, books. If you haven't checked out the playbook, go ahead, download the playbook. You can search it on Spotify. It's featured on Spotify, Entrepreneur, every platform. The playbook, like it, share it. You'll love it. It has millionaires, billionaires, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, entertainers, biggest names in the world, and my trainings, which is the #1 downloaded podcast. All those different trainings for over 20 years. I've been doing them. Join me every Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Sign up at david@dmeltzer.com or join my text community, 949-298-2905. Go ahead, give me a thumbs up if you've been to those trainings and enjoy them. We have over 20,000 people registered every single week, which is extraordinary, and multiple hundreds of thousands who download it and listen to it. And watch it, by the way. So go ahead, catch the playbook or catch us live on Fridays. Ask the questions. We always have a Q&A session as well. And we'll be joining Clubhouse with it on Fridays. So if you're a member of Clubhouse, check that out. How to cope up with the demotivation in a negative and scrutinizing work environment. Whether it is or it isn't, either way, you're right. So let's find the superpower in what you're doing. Remember, there's a difference between motivation and inspiration. And so what you want to do is, if you feel that your environment is toxic, you want to try to understand and learn it. You want to let it fall away from you or fire it from you if it bleeds you too much. But most environments, it's a matter of perception, right? Use gratitude as a steering wheel. Use that pain as an indicator, a turn signal to turn to the right direction, to find the lessons in what you're doing. Remember, pain, this type of pain, is usually an indicator you have a lesson to learn. And in order to learn that, you need to use understanding, gratitude, forgiveness, and accountability in order to effectuate that understanding. And then you can determine whether or not you want it to continue in your life by allowing it and feeding it, allowing it to fall away, or firing it from your life. So go ahead, utilize that strategy. It would really help. What is your morning routine like? I have 2 routines because I know one thing, that if you want to make God laugh, come up with a well-developed plan. But I do have a well-planned routine that starts at 9 o'clock tonight. So my tomorrow starts today at 9 o'clock with an unwinding routine in order to facilitate me waking up at 4 a.m. tomorrow at my highest frequency, so I can plateau and grow, create a baseline, which I know where my center, my highest frequency, my neutrality is, so that I can stop, drop, and roll if I start exercising my ego or utilizing the ego-based consciousness, the need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated. Any of those wasteful things that drain our souls and suck our souls and create interferences, voids, and shortages. We can then move from there. But 20 minutes to meditate and to utilize that center, that highest frequency, 10 minutes to get ready, and then I spend a minimum of an hour on my health, a minimum of an hour in research, a minimum of an hour turning off and going off the grid to spend with my family. Then I execute on my calendar. As a student of my calendar, I go ahead and utilize the lenses of productivity, of how much value I'm going to provide, accessibility of how accessible am I to others, and of course, gratitude, how I find the light, the love, and the lessons and everything. And then once again, at the end of the day, I have my minimum of 1.5 hours with my family, minimum of 1 hour doing research once again, and then into my unwinding routine and starting all over. That is my set routine. That's the one that makes God laugh, because it's a well-developed plan. I always have an adaptable routine, and that's when things don't go as planned, which is based off of my non-negotiables. Minimum of an hour a day on my health, a minimum of so much time with my wife, my 10-year-old son, my 3 teenage daughters, my mom, and then a minimum amount of time being a student in my calendar to make sure that I'm utilizing Roosevelt's matrix of importance versus urgency in order to effectuate everything according to my values. I utilize 4 key values and 5 daily practices. So if you can go ahead and reach out to me, make sure you catch me. Thank you, Mikey. I'm joining JA Worldwide at 8:45 today. We always have a JA Impact Award. I'm the Chief Chancellor of Junior Achievement University Worldwide, with great thought leaders like Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor, Brian Tracy, extraordinary people, Sharon Lecter, all giving their content for the betterment of our young entrepreneurs who will save the world, I promise you. Anyway, let me take a little bit of break. Get back on at JA Worldwide. Come join me. Really appreciate that, Alex. Thank you for joining me as well. Remember, Friday free training. That's tomorrow. Abundant Negotiations. Learn how to negotiate from an abundant position. Get the exercises guides, my books for free. I will sign them, send them out, pay for shipping. Just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. Join my text community, 949-298-2905. Or, as always, download the podcast called The Playbook. My podcast is featured on Entrepreneur. It's featured on Spotify. Search David Meltzer, search The Playbook, like it, share it. You'll love it. It has millionaires, billionaires, and entrepreneurs. It has the greatest celebrities, athletes, and entertainers. The biggest names that you'll find giving their playbooks to success, showing their desire that they must be what they can be. But most importantly, everyone, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Thanks so much.